I'm Zoe Clifton from Bellarine Sewing Centre, and I'd like to thank you for joining us for part 2 of our block building series. Today we're going to play with the log cabin, and we're going to do a scrappy log cabin. You can see here with this quilt, this is the one that we've made, and it's all done with scrap fabrics, which is a really great way to use up the bits and pieces that you have at home. I absolutely love scrap fabrics, as you all know. When we have a look at this quilt, it does look a little tricky. When you look at it, you think, oh my goodness, how in the world are we going to get all of those little seams to line together? But it's actually not as difficult as it seems, and I'm going to work you through that process today. I'd also like to show you a different quilt that we did, same but different. A few years back we had the most adorable panels come in store, and we just had to do something with them. And so we used this same method to make this little quilt here, where we have these adorable panels in the middle. Same thing, but we just had to adjust the size a little bit to make them fit. So it just shows you a couple of different ways that you can make this quilt to make it look so adorable. This isn't tricky, as I said. So what we have when we look at this quilt, it's actually all broken down to one block. And the easiest way to explain that to you is to show you this. So this is the log cabin block. We have a centre, and we have sides and tops and bottoms and sides and tops and bottoms and sides. Nice and easy. Tricky to see when it's like this. Because of how we've designed this quilt, you can then see that we've flowed that colour on through to the next block. But when you have a little look at it in the picture here, you can then see I've drawn this black line to actually show you that is a block, and that is a block, and that is a block. So how you make those blocks and assemble them to get that new look with the colours that look like they're flowing through. So that is one of the hardest parts of actually making this block, is how not to cut your fabrics, but how to do the planning. You don't have to just plan one block as you go, but you really need to plan 3 or 4 blocks at a time because of the colours, especially if you're using scraps. Because when you're using scraps, if you start to do this method and then you don't have enough of a particular fabric, it's actually going to lose the whole design. So let me start by showing you what I mean. We've cut the same centre for every single block for this quilt, which I do love to do because I just find it gives it that little bit of uniformity, and I've also brought that fabric out to the outside border so that it continues that theme, and because of the fabrics that I've used, it just helped to lift them a little bit because they're quite bright and fun. So we're going to start with our centre block. Now all of these fabric measurements are listed on our website to show you how to cut, and every block is cut the same. So just follow those round one and piece ones, lefts and rights and what have you. When you see that, it'll all make sense. So we're going to start with our centre block here, and then I'm going to put this pink on this side, and then I'm going to put this pink on this side. So what I would do is sew those two pieces to this side and press the seams coming out under here. Now because I'm at the top of the quilt, I don't need to worry about what's beyond it. So when I put this one on the top, on the side, I know that I don't have to have more of this because I don't have a block coming in here. This one is going on the top, and when I sit that one on the top here, you have to sort of imagine then that that's the top and that's the side of my quilt. So I don't need any more of that, and I don't need any more of that. This one is going to continue on the side here, and this aqua I'm going to put down the bottom. So I'll have those 3. So that's great, but my recommendation is before you sew that, you've now got to think about this block, because this fabric needs to come down here and this fabric needs to come over here. So let me show you what I mean. So continuing our pink, this is the start of block 2, so I have to have that pink come in there. So looking at the quilt, that's a block, but this green we then have to continue down here. I'm then going to put this green up the top because I've only got a little bit of it, and that's the top of my quilt. That's my centre piece, and the yellow I will have coming in here, and the blue I'll have coming on the side because I know I've got more blue. So when I come to start the block that's going to sit next to this, I know that I've got enough to do that. Okay, this is the block that's going to sit down here. So I know that I have to continue this fabric on, which means I'm going to start by putting this fabric here and my centre. I know that this is the side of my quilt, so I only have to have the 3 pieces in this colour because that's the edge of my quilt. But when I come to do this piece here, I have to have more of it because I need it for this block here. I hope this is all making sense. So I'm putting that one there, and then when I come to start this block, I've now got to consider this fabric and this fabric. So I need to bring the yellow back down, like so, and I'm going to bring this gorgeous one back over here, and then pop another centre in. And then obviously when I get to that stage, I'll then start to think about what I'm going to do moving to the side and moving down. We're still going to make them as separate blocks, but the placement is the hardest thing. My recommendation with that, what I do at home, is I get a sheet and I lay it on my bed and I start to lay the pieces out on the bed so I'm not bending over on the floor or on a table, and that way when I've got them right I can simply roll the sheet up and pop it aside until I'm ready to sew it, and then you don't have to redo what you've already done. Alternatively, you can take a photo. Scrap quilts are one of my favourite things to do, and I just think when you look at the mix that you've got at home and you can put all sorts of things together, they do look fabulous. And you can do so much. Now you don't have to do just scraps, you can come and get specific fabrics to do that as a particular quilt for somebody, either a man quilt or whatever you want to do. But scrap quilts are one of my favourite things. Some of you may know that I have already published 2 books in the scrap quilting. We've got More Scraps, More Time, that has 12 projects, and With Scraps of Time is my first book, and that has 15 projects. So both of those are there to keep you inspired by using lots and lots and lots of different scraps and different ideas, grouping them together into families to make them look like a special quilt that you've come and bought fabric for. Okay, so what we're going to do now, we're going to assemble a couple of blocks so that I can show you how to pop them all together. So as if by magic, we've now made 2 blocks. And you can now see when they're assembled a little bit clearer how you're now going to get that continuation of your fabric coming through here. I think that should now make sense to you, both coming through the quilt and across the quilt. But one thing that you will notice here is that the seams are heading this way for both blocks. So when you come to sew these blocks together, be really, really careful how you line that up. Pull it back so that you know that it's lined up, and pop a pin coming this way, and then the same down here. And then when you've sewn through there, what I want you to do this time is, instead of pressing your seams flat, I actually want you to open your seams like that and press it flat coming through the width and coming through when you do the rows. It's just going to help eliminate a little bit of bulk in those seams, and it's going to make it sit a bit flatter and it's easier to put together. So we've gone from lots and lots of little scraps. The cutting instructions are on the website for you to print off so that you know exactly what you're cutting. Watch that 1/4 inch seam. Do a little test and make sure your 1/4 inch seam is perfect before you sew. If it isn't, you'll end up with bowing coming in if you're trying to stretch the strips to make them work. So cut perfectly, sew perfectly, lay out and do your job with all of the placement, and then it'll come together. And really, it's one of those quilts that you can just make as big as you like. Keep going, have fun. Thank you for joining us.